welcome to Target UPSC Prelims 2024 MCQ series, and this is the second episode for economy subject. So let's begin. The first question talks about the Nehru Mahalanobis strategy. The Nehru Mahalanobis strategy for development was implemented for the first time by which of the following 5-year plans? First 5-year plan, second 5-year plan, third 5-year plan, or seventh 5-year plan? The correct answer is option B, that is second 5-year plan. So the Nehru Mahalanobis strategy of development was implemented by the second 5-year plan, and the time period was from 1956 to 1961, and it focused on rapid industrialization, heavy and basic industries. So it focused on rapid industrialization, heavy and basic industries, advocated huge imports through foreign loans, etc. So the correct answer is option B, that is second 5-year plan. Now next question. So the second question is, inclusive growth is a phrase used in India's 9th 5-year plan, 10th 5-year plan, 11th 5-year plan, or 12th 5-year plan. Which of the above is or are correct? 1, 2 and 3 only, 2 and 4 only, 3 and 4 only, or 4 only? The correct answer is option C, that is 3 and 4 only. Let's look at the explanation. So the correct explanation is that the objective of the 11th 5-year plan was rapid and inclusive growth. That is about poverty reduction. So 11th 5-year plan was about rapid and inclusive growth, and then the aim of the 12th 5-year plan was to achieve faster, sustainable and more inclusive growth. So here also the inclusive growth aspect is coming, and that is why option C is the correct answer, that is 3 and 4, that is 11th 5-year plan and 12th 5-year plan. Now next question. So the next question talks about, consider the following statements regarding Indian planning. There are two statements. That is, the second 5-year plan emphasized on the establishment of heavy industries. So we just talked about this. And the third 5-year plan introduced the concept of import substitution as a strategy for industrialization. And which of the statement given above is or are correct? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. So the correct answer for this question is option C, that is both 1 and 2. So both 1 and 2 is correct. So let's look at this. So let's talk about first the second 5-year plan. So the model for this plan was prepared by Professor P.C. Mahalanobis, and this plan is also called the Mahalanobis plan. And this plan was conceived in an atmosphere for economic stability, to bring stability in India's economy. It focused on rapid industrialization, heavy and basic industries. It also advocated huge imports through foreign loans. Therefore, statement 1 becomes correct. And the industrial policy of 1956 was based on the establishment of a socialistic pattern of society as the goal of economic policy. Then at its conception, it was felt that Indian economy has entered a takeoff stage. Therefore, its aim was to make India a self-reliant and self-generating economy. What it was supposed to do was to make India a self-reliant. It means India is dependent on its own and self-generating economy. And the dependence at this stage of development on external resources served to emphasize the importance of policies and measures for import substitution and for increasing export earnings. Therefore, statement 2 is also correct. And agriculture was given top priority to support the export industry. So this talked about import substitution and strategy for industrialization. So statement 2 is also correct. Therefore, option C, that is both 1 and 2, is the correct answer. Next question. The computation of poverty in terms of monthly per capita consumption expenditure. Monthly, it means every month. Per capita, how much an individual is consuming and how much the individual is expending to consume that, based on the mixed reference period, was recommended by the. So the computation of poverty in terms of monthly per capita consumption expenditure based on the mixed reference period was recommended by the Lakhadwala committee, Tendulkar committee, Dandekar committee, or Alag committee. So the correct answer for this question is option B, that is Tendulkar committee. So whenever we talk about the topic of poverty, there are few committees which are very important for you to remember, that is Lakhadwala committee, Tendulkar committee, Alag committee, Dandekar committee, Rangarajan committee, and very famous among them are Tendulkar committee and Rangarajan committee. So the Tendulkar committee, set up in the year 2009, suggested several changes to the way poverty was measured. So it talked about how poverty was measured. Then it recommended using mixed reference period, that is MRP. So it recommended using mixed reference period based estimates. So that it's talked about that the estimates should be based on the mixed reference period, as opposed to uniform reference period based estimates used in earlier methods for estimating poverty. So earlier there was uniform reference period, but from uniform reference period it talked about mixed reference period. Therefore option B becomes correct answer, that is Tendulkar committee. Next question. Which one among the following is not covered under Integrated Child Development Program, that is ICDP? Supplementary nutrition, immunization, nutrition and health education, or family planning? So the correct answer for this question is option D, that is family planning. So let's talk about the Integrated Child Development Program. It was launched in the year 1975. So the Integrated Child Development Service Scheme is one of the flagship programs of the Government of India and represents one of the world's largest and unique programs for early childhood care and development. So for early childhood care and development, the beneficiaries under the scheme are, children, and the age group is 0 to 6 years, pregnant women, and lactating mothers. So the beneficiaries under the schemes are children in the age group of 0 to 6 years, pregnant women, and lactating mothers. Now let's talk about the ICDS scheme, which offers a package of 6 services, which includes, so the 6 services are supplementary nutrition, preschool, non-formal education, nutrition and health education, immunization, health checkup, and last is referral services. So family planning is not there. Therefore option D, that is family planning, becomes the correct answer. Next question. Consider the following statements. Human capital formation. Human capital formation. This point has already been asked in the UPSC. Human capital formation as a concept is better explained in terms of a process which enables, first, individuals of a country to accumulate more capital. Second, increasing the knowledge, skill levels and capacities of the people of the country. Third, accumulation of tangible wealth. Tangible wealth means something which we can touch, and accumulation of intangible wealth. Intangible wealth means something which we cannot touch. So which of the statement given above is or are correct? 1 and 2 only, 2 only, 2 and 4 only, or 1, 3 and 4 only? So the correct answer for this question is option C, that is 2 and 4 only. 2 means increasing the knowledge, skill levels and capacities of the people of the country, and fourth is accumulation of intangible wealth. So tangible wealth is wrong and individuals of a country to accumulate more capital is wrong. Now let's look at its explanation. So the people of the nation as resources refers to the country's working population. Country's working population in terms of their existing productive skills and abilities. Productive skills and abilities. This aspect of the population of a nation, with emphasis on people's ability to contribute to the creation of the GNP, is known as the human capital. Therefore, statement 1 becomes wrong. Then second, human capital formation is defined as development of the human resource by investing in health, education, and skill development of the human resources. Human capital formation, in other terms, encompasses in itself the process of increasing knowledge, skill levels, and capacities of the people of the country. Therefore, second is correct. Now, let's talk about third and fourth. So, the sources of human capital formation are as follows. First, investment in education. So, education, investment in health, then investment in skill development and vocational training, investment in on job training, migration and information, and then education, skill development, vocational training, and on the job training form the part of intangible wealth of the human resource and human capital. Therefore, fourth also becomes correct and third is incorrect. Therefore, the correct answer is 2 and 4. That is option C. Next question. To obtain full benefits of demographic dividend, what should India do? A. Promoting skill development. B. Introducing more social security schemes. C. Reducing infant mortality rate. Or D. Privatization of higher education. Now let's look at the explanation. And the correct answer for this question is option A, that is promoting skill development. Now if we talk about the demographic dividend, so it refers to the growth. It refers to the growth in an economy. It refers to growth in an economy due to a rising share of working age population. So growth in an economy because of the rising share of working age population. It means the working age population is increasing. So in India, there is a significant number of working age adults, as we always talk about that India is about the working age population. So in India, there is a significant number of working age adults, and to obtain the full benefits of the demographic dividend, the government should focus on skill development, and apart from skill development, there is vocational training also, as the skilled working population will be easily inducted into the workforce and will be the base of economic development. As many a times we see that whatever the market is demanding, the employees are not able to provide. So there is a demand supply mismatch. Therefore, the correct answer for this question is option A, that is promoting skill development. Next question. Which of the following can be said to be essentially the parts of inclusive governance? Inclusive governance. First, permitting the NBFC, that is the non-banking financial companies, to do banking. Second, establishing effective district planning committees in all the districts. Third, increasing the government spending on public health. Or fourth, strengthening the midday meal scheme. Select the correct answer using the codes given below. 1 and 2 only, 3 and 4 only, 2, 3 and 4 only, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So the correct answer for this question is option C, that is 2, 3 and 4 only. 2, 3 and 4. So establishing effective district planning committees, increasing the government spending on public health, and the midday meal scheme. Let's look at the explanation. Governance is a decision making process. So it's a decision making process that gets more people and stakeholders involved. Inclusive governance through citizens' involvement favors the overall acceptance. It talks about the overall acceptance and makes implementation of policies easier. So this makes implementation of policies easier. Then establishing a district planning committee will increase people's participation in the developmental plan of their area. So the people's participation will increase. This will make the planning exercise bottoms up in its approach and help in bringing inclusive governance. Therefore, second statement becomes correct. Now, increasing expenditure on public health. Increasing expenditure on public health will result in increasing human capital of the country, which in turn will lead to inclusive development. Therefore, third option also becomes correct. The strengthening of the midday meal scheme will increase the enrollment ratio. So, the enrollment ratio will increase, as well as the nutritional level of the children will also increase, which in turn will lead to overall development of the children. Therefore, fourth also becomes correct. Permitting NBFCs to do banking have no direct linkage with the inclusive governance. Therefore, NBFC's point becomes wrong. Therefore, option C is the correct answer, which is 2, 3 and 4 only. Next question. Consider the following statements in context of Sustainable Development Goals, that is SDGs. A Sustainable Development Goals Index. First, it was produced under the Sustainable Development Solutions Network. Second, the SDGs are also known as global goals. Third, SDG India Index tracks the progress of all the states and union territories on a set of 100 national indicators derived from the National Indicator Framework. These are the three statements. Which of the statement given above is or are correct? 1 only, 1 and 3 only, 2 and 3 only, or all of the above? So the correct answer for this question is option D, that is all of the above. Now, SDG Index, which is the Sustainable Development Goal Index, and dashboard reports are produced by the Sustainable Development Solutions Network. So it is produced by the Sustainable Development Solutions Network. Hence, statement 1 becomes correct. The Sustainable Development Report, formerly the SDG Index and Dashboard, is a global assessment of countries. So it assesses all the countries and its progress towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goal. It is a complement to the official SDG indicators and the voluntary national reviews. And the Sustainable Development Goals, which are also known as the global goals. So the SDG goals are also known as the global goals, were adopted by all UN member states. It was adopted by all United Nations member states in the year 2015 as a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by the year, that is 2030. And the 17 SDGs are integrated. It means they are related to each other. Therefore, statement 2 also becomes correct. And the SDG India Index is released by the Niti Aayog. So the SDG India Index is released by the Niti Aayog. It has been constructed spanning across 16 out of 17 SDGs with a qualitative assessment on SDG 17. It tracks the progress of all the states and union territories on a set of 100 national indicators derived from the National Indicator Framework, measuring their progress on the outcomes of interventions and schemes of the Government of India. Therefore, statement 3 also becomes correct. Therefore, option D is the correct answer, that is all of the above. Next question. Consider the following statements regarding e-rupee prepaid digital vouchers. E-rupee prepaid digital vouchers. The maximum amount of e-rupee is rupees 1 lakh. Second, beneficiaries can receive e-rupee without having a bank account. Or third, to receive e-rupee on mobile phones, beneficiaries need a smartphone with internet connection. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? 1 and 2 only, 3 only, 1 and 3 only, or 2 only? The correct answer is option A, that is 1 and 2 only. E-rupee is basically a digital voucher. So e-rupee is a digital voucher which a beneficiary gets on his phone in the form of an SMS or QR code. It is a prepaid voucher which he or she can go and redeem it at any center that accepts it. So it is a prepaid voucher. In February 2023, the RBI hiked the cap on e-rupee prepaid digital vouchers from rupees 10,000 to rupees 1 lakh and enabled the instrument for multiple transactions. It means many transactions can be done. Multiple transactions. Therefore, statement 1 becomes correct. Consumer redeeming the voucher need not have a digital payment app or a bank account. So, without having the bank account or the digital payment app, the person or the consumer can redeem the voucher. Therefore, statement 2 also becomes correct. To receive e-rupee on mobile phones, beneficiary do not need a smartphone with an internet connection. Therefore, smartphone with an internet connection is not required. Therefore, option A is the correct answer. There is statement 1 and 2 are correct. Now, next question, and this is the practice question. And like always, you people will give me the answer in the comment section. So, the question is, a non-banking financial company, a NBFC. So, a NBFC, that is a non-banking financial company, cannot. So, what a non-banking financial company cannot do? A. Give loans. B. Make investments. C. Borrow from bank. Or D. Seek demand deposits from public and cannot issue check. So, what the NBFC cannot do? Loans, make investments, borrow from bank, seek demand deposit from public and cannot issue checks. So, this is a practice question and you people need to give me the answer in the comment section. And that's all for today. And like I always say, till we meet next time, keep reading, keep writing and keep subscribing to the channel. Thank you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.